All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another podcast from Habitual Growth. I've got a very special guest. Even though I say this with all my guests, this one is unique and even more special just because Bree Johnson happens to be my wife and partner within Habitual Growth. She is a mom, a wonderful spouse, a go-getter, a motivational speaker, a tech leader, and need I say, also the probably champion of Phase 2 Live Hard program. With that, what we really wanted to start off with today is just talking a little bit about phase two. Bree and I post quite a bit actually on social media about the Live Hard program. I don't know if this is something that we happen to trip into in terms of phase one and phase two. We're going to talk a little bit about that in our discussion here today. But Bree, would you like to tell the people a little bit about phase two? What actually is in phase two?
Sure. What? Thanks for the great introduction. I'll pay you 20 after this. For those who don't know, most people are familiar-ish with 75 hard. And what they don't know is 75 hard is a part of what you reference, the Live Hard program. So there's multiple phases within Live Hard, and we are in the midst of phase two. And phase two is actually the easiest from a memory perspective because it is a repeat of 75 hard. So, what that entails would be one outdoor workout for 45 minutes, or I should say, a secondary workout for 45 minutes, 10 pages of a self development business book, a progress picture, a gallon of water. And what am I missing here?
Progress picture.
No, I did progress with diet, following a diet of your choice. So
Yeah.
those are the same components of 75 hard, just condensed down to 30 days.
Absolutely. So we started the program at the beginning of the year. I'm just adding a little bit more context here. So we started on January 1st, finished 75 hard. We immediately rolled into phase one because that is allowed. But then between phase one and phase two, you're required actually to have at least a 30-day separation. So I want to say we finished around May of the phase one. We took a little bit of a break and now we're back into phase two, but we didn't always start out that way. When we first started talking about this, it was more of, hey, I just want to do 75 hard. So you were the big proponent this year of bringing it to fruition and really wanting to be able to do the program. Just starting out, kind of what was your thought process? Why did you want to do 75 hard? And then kind of what made you want to continue to get into phase one, but now phase two?
Yes, I had a big milestone birthday this year. Oh, not 21, but you can your imagination run wild. And I just thought that if there's ever gonna be a time to enter a decade feeling really confident and good holistically, this would be the decade to do that. So I had seen you do it in the past. And of course, it always stroked my competitive fire where I'm like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And so I just felt like no better time like the present. And milestones are always a nice way to create that sense of urgency. So, yeah, I think 75 hard was the no-brainer as in like, yeah, it's happening this year. Put it on the 2025 goal list so that it was written in stone on paper to be completed. But the secondary question, why the Live Hard program? I think what you and I both agreed upon is that we almost felt a bit lost when we're not in the program and like the discipline, like the extreme use of time, just having to be so intentional and efficient with all of your days that when we were not doing a part of the program, it kind of just felt off. It felt wrong. So you and I agreed like, okay, well, we did the hardest part being 75, like, let's just see how the whole Live Hard program rolls out, and now that we are more than 50%, done, I am already thinking like, "Wow, what is life gonna look like post Live Hard?" So I just yeah, I think it's really beautiful to watch yourself create habits in real time, and then
Mhm.
see that once you get away from the framework that created those habits, what you
Yeah.
yearn for.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm glad you kind of went there because that's something that we wanted to talk about today. You and I, I think are pretty motivated individuals, and just, we're not, we also have full-time jobs. We have three little kids. Schedule is a big thing. Every time I think people ask us about this, we always talk about, I think the most difficult part actually is the schedule. Like, you really have to start early in the day. You finish sometimes late at night. You do things that you don't want to do. You have to sacrifice some things on the weekend. And I think for us, when you get into that habit, that 75 hard piece that on the forefront, really helps you build up that resilience. The first 2 to 3 weeks, I think, are really difficult. Getting back into phase two, that transition between phase one and phase two, like you were saying, we really missed it. And, I think, I don't know how many times I said it to you, and I know you said it to me a couple of times as well. It's like, man, I wish everyone really had this dying in front of me. I wish I was actually catching up on my reading instead of the day just getting sucked in between, a bunch of other activities or noise or whatever it is. Was there something else for you that really jumped out when we entered phase two, or actually what you were looking for outside of maybe timing and scheduling that was the most difficult, or what were you looking the most forward to?
I think the notion that you eat a dinosaur or elephant or insert your animal of choice one bite at a time, meaning that we started off like the program is situated in that it's 75 days, meaning that's the longest duration of any time you're going to do something. And so mentally feeling that we've conquered something really quite large and that everything moving forward is not a walk in the park, but meaning you've already shown yourself and creating that muscle of I can do hard things and choose to do hard things and that it's gonna be a bit easier every round. And so I think more I was interested to see how giving some time off in between the phase and the program is supposed to be 1 year fully in duration. For those that don't know, you need to do the last phase in the last month of your year anniversary. So everything is quite calculated from a timing perspective, and I think I was just more excited to say like, "Okay, yeah, we did the hardest thing, and now everything else should feel a bit more palatable." Still hard, but that just that feeling of victory and, like, you've conquered something and that you wanna continue to see what you're capable of even in the, I should say, more endurance sport. I think people are quite good at setting sprints for themselves, and by sprints, I mean, like, yeah, we're gonna do this thing for 30 days. Or for those that are believers, like Lent is usually a challenge or a sacrifice season, which is 40 days. So there's a lot of things that are smaller in duration or shorter, I should say, but this is 1 year. And so I think progressionally moving every phase, knowing that it's a year of commitment, just it has a different weight to it, but in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I want to I haven't asked you this before, and so I don't actually know what your answer is going to be, but I'm very curious if you think you would have done 75 hard by yourself if I wouldn't have joined you. And the reason I'm asking this, just to provide more context, is because obviously it's easier when somebody else does this with you, right? And so I want to talk a little bit about that, whether you're a couple or whether you have an accountability partner, but just starting out on your own, like going into the bleed, because I don't think I committed until like right before right before New Year's. I think I was pretty late to the party on that. But do you think you would have actually gone through with it and just put your mind to it and just gone through the 75 hard? Do you think it would have been a different circumstance now getting into phase two?
I would have to say yes, that I would have done it. And that just goes back to the competitive nature of you being my husband, and if you can do it, I can do it kind of a thing. However, I will asterisk that with, of course, it's way easier when you've got accountability. I mean, the best is in your own household, of course, because you can honestly help each other out when like someone is sick or the kids have a lot of demands or like name whatever life thing you want. If you have someone by your side in your close circle, then I think, of course, like also misery loves comfort, but or I should say, whatever. What does that say?
Misery loves company.
There we go. Misery loves comfort. Misery loves company. I'm like, I know that's not right. But, people that are doing hard things want to do hard things with one another.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
to answer your question, I would have tried to do it on
Mhm.
my own. However, it feels way better that I know somebody else is doing it alongside with me, and that connective tissue, when you understand that other people are in your same exact boat, of course, just feels, like, mentally better because you know you're not alone.
Yeah, for sure. I would 100% agree with that. I think, having somebody there to support you because you get into days where it's just like, oh, not another day of this, or man, it's raining outside and I don't really want to do it. You've had up days and you're encouraging me. You've had down days and I'm encouraging you. And I think one of the cool parts is going into phase two. Some of the things that we've carried along from even phase one that we just end up liking and have just kind of put into our routine. So things like cold plunging, which I understand not everybody has a cold plunge, but even like something like taking a cold shower, doing service for other people, we try to still incorporate those things because we actually miss them in the routine, even though they're not part of phase two. And so I've seen this big evolution, and I know you are a competitive person. That's actually why I love having you as my wife and why I really enjoy this together. But let's talk about couples doing it together. What are some of the things that you have noticed about you and I doing phase two together? And this can relate obviously to 75 hard or even just phase one, but like, what are the things that you've picked up on that you would encourage other couples to do this together with?
Yes. I think it goes back to, first and foremost, accountability, and when you have set a shared common goal, I mean, in my opinion, there's not many things as a couple that drive you so closely in the same direction, at least tactically speaking. Like, okay, we've now both agreed and set upon this goal and doing something hard together. I think most people could reflect that, yeah, it's usually not the good times, the easy times, the times that things are going well and celebratory that you remember. It's the really hard times that you reflect and you're like, wow, like we did that together. We got through that really tough period. That to me creates the depth of a relationship is the hard times. And of course, celebrating the wins along the way is beautiful. But I think to just increase and encourage richness in a relationship, that's one thing that is awesome. And I just don't think, like, as couples, we necessarily set out to conquer a tough thing intentionally. Sure, do we conquer things that are tough because life throws them our way? Of course, absolutely. But when we choose to do the hard together, there's something that is really unique, and I love to be able to do that. Secondarily, I would say that, again, we've pulled on this thread earlier, but our kids really are aware of what we are doing and choosing to do. And yeah, like there's times where like, okay, the only way this is going to work in our schedule is a family walk. Like our outdoor workout needs to be a family walk. The other day it was like, well, they wanted to go to the park. Still need to get a second workout in outside, so sure, let's do a park outdoor workout while you play, like, meaning though that they're really just cognizant that you and I have a commitment, and they're watching us to do the same things that we do every single day, and they know it's a part of our lives and our structure. So
Mhm.
again, very cool to watch them, just see what we're doing in this together as a couple, but then it's spread to our family. And lastly, I just think you and I get more time together, and that's maybe a organic outcome, but yeah, like when our schedules align, it's so nice to be able to do today we got a bike ride in together and a gym workout in together, or when we go on our walks or our rucks, or yesterday we went on a hike together to get our second workout in. And that is creating more time and space of, yes, we're accomplishing something, but it's also allowing us to have more connective time daily and during the week, which of course is just crucial for relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. You picked up on a couple of things that I hadn't thought about. So I'm glad you shared that. I think for me, agreeing with everything that you've shared, one other thing, which I almost think is like the forefront of the entire thing is like you get to create this identity for yourself, but more importantly, as a couple. So it's just as important as an individual to really understand this is the person I want to be. Am I a disciplined person? I am a disciplined person, so I'm going to do 75 hard every single day. We are a couple. This is what we're going to be doing every single day. And we're going to have to start constructing our schedules. We're going to have to be a little bit more prepared. It was funny when we went out the other day, it was like we had a neighborhood workout. Your dad came along, the kids came around. We knew we were going out. The storm clouds were coming in, but they hadn't hit yet. And all of a sudden, like, it starts raining, and you and I just keep going like it's no big deal because we know we just have to get it done, right? Doesn't matter the weather, we're going to go get it done. Your dad and the kids, they took off running back to the house, and you just pulled out an umbrella and just kind of walked along with you, which I thought was really cool. So it makes you think a little bit further ahead, strategize, whether that can be schedule, the tools you're going to need, all that stuff. But I really like the identity piece of it because, like you said about the kids, our kids now are getting into the cold plunge, right? They're not sitting in for 5 minutes or anything dangerous like that, but they're like, "Ooh, mom and dad are doing this. I think it's awesome now. I'm going to go do it. I can do it too." And so it really, you create almost this identity. But what I like about it is it forces the conversation as a couple, right? We're going to do this together. And again, it applies to an individual as well, because not everybody has a partner, not everybody is married, and that's totally fine. But the way I like to think about this program is it forces you to do these hard things, and you're either going to do them because you're going to make up your mind or you're not. And that is going to reinforce your identity. And so I want to touch on that because I think everything you shared was great. I think that is all on the back end of the ultimately that first conversation that you get to have with yourself as a person, but then with another person that is your spouse or an accountability partner or whoever else. Yeah. I think just kind of rounding this out, what do you think is been the best part of phase 2, and what do you think is maybe the thing you're not looking most towards, or I guess forward to, as we kind of round out phase 2 here coming up in about a week and a half?
Yeah, probably the same answer for both. I would say that what I've most enjoyed is really keying in on the nutrition diet part of this phase this round. And I set up a bit more of a challenging protocol than I did in other phases. And what I've loved is that I actually, yeah, like seeing results. And again, this whole program is not for just fitness and aesthetic, like, it's about mental fortitude and grit and mental toughness, and again, choosing intentional hard things, but this round specifically, I've really focused on more of the nutritional component and making it a bit more difficult, and so what I've loved is, of course, like, actually seeing results, which is awesome and motivating for me even when it's really freaking hard. And that why I said it's the same answer is, like, what I'm not looking forward to coming out of this phase is just, like, losing that challenge because I've seen the outcomes. How do you sustain something hard and difficult when there is no quote unquote, like, box that you have to check every day to do that. And true candor, we're heading out to Italy in less than 2 weeks as a family, and that's the land of pizza and gelato. So, what does that mean for someone coming out of a phase 2? I don't know, but, just thoughts that are circulating and see what happens, and I know we have to jump into our next phase when we get back starting in December, but yeah, that would be mine. How about you?
Um, I think what I'm looking forward to getting away from is the 2 workouts. They're so time consuming, which it's there for a reason. It's designed not necessarily for the workout, even though obviously there is a physicality piece to it, but it is for that mental thing of like, gosh, I have to go out again and I got to separate the workouts by 3 hours. And how am I going to fit this into my schedule? It's 10 p.m., and raining. I don't want to do this, but I have to go do this. So I'm looking at getting back some of that time. But I am looking forward to actually this phase three is I really enjoy the discipline that comes along with this. And I don't enjoy it for the discipline because I think that we've gotten that down good and goodish. I think there's obviously always an area for improvement, but it's really helped us manage our schedules. I think it's really opened our communication channels. I think it's really helped us inspire other people in our kids and some of our neighbors who are coming over now and they're doing things like cold plunging and working out with us and things like that. And I really love that connection that it actually creates. So last question that I want to touch on because we do more than just 75 hard phase two, live hard phase two in our day. And I think it's really important to touch on this because even though it is time consuming, it helps us really be more productive in the day. And as counterintuitive as it is, once you get used to the program and the schedule, one of the really cool things about it is you actually start to free up time. You realize, hey, I've got some noise over here. Hey, I'm not as disciplined in this area. I've got to really dial in my schedule. Or, hey, I may have to stay up a little bit late to hit some of the requirements. Of course, you're a part of this journey, but naturally on this podcast, we need to talk about the Habitual Growth app because that's only one line. Live Hard Phase 2 is only one line item in the app for me a day. I have at least four other priorities that I fit into my day that I don't go to bed until they are completed. And so I do want to plug Andy Frisella, who is the inspiration and the voice behind the Live Hard program. You can go get his book, which is on his website, which is called The Book for Mental Toughness. Andy, because he is this creator, obviously he has a big podcast and a following if you haven't followed him. But I do want to point that out because he does this every year. I think you and I will end up doing it every year to some degree. I don't know if we'll do the full program, but I can definitely see the benefits. But can you just share from your perspective with the Habitual Growth app how you're navigating your day in addition to everything that's in the phase two? Because I want people to know you do end up finding more time. You do end up being more productive. You do end up being able to continue your life when it just seems so overwhelming with everything that's in the program itself.
Yes, and sorry, cut out a bit, but I what I captured is how am I using the Habitual Growth app on top of the Live Hard
Yes,
program?
correct.
Yeah, I mean, you know this, I might be biased. This app has single-handedly helped shape my life and my trajectory because it keeps me focused in a very holistic way. And although you can argue that 75 Hard Live Hard has multiple components, most people associate it with a health fitness challenge. When you break it down, granted, there's other areas to it and that mental gritness, all that kind of stuff. But from the masses, that's like what people get like, oh, you're working out twice a day and you're following a diet, like you're drinking a gallon of water. Great. There's other things they layer in. Habitual growth, however, has allowed me to first establish what are my big goals? Like, what are these goals that I want to tackle for 3 months, for 6 months, for the year ahead. And then of those goals, what am I going to do to take daily action steps to get one step closer to those goals? And why I love habitual growth so much is that, again, it really is the most holistic app I have found to make sure that I am not pivoting one direction and ignoring the rest of the parts of my life that like make me a better human. And so there's great stats that are built into the app for me to truly do some reflection to say, wow, like a lot of my goals are just professionally driven. Like, what else am I doing to be an active community member? What am I doing for my faith life? There's so many other parts of life. And I think it's really easy for people to get pigeonholed into one bucket. And then all of a sudden you look up a few years later and you're like, what happened? Like I said, these things were important to me. What am I doing that's actually like showing that they're important to me? So the app has really helped define goals, create action items that still are moving us closer towards those goals, but then also just making sure that we're showing up the best version of ourselves. And the best
Mhm.
version of yourself is holistic. It's holistic living. And You're not gonna just be like a professional tyrant and think that you've got a really strong community life and doing well with your health. I mean, there's like so many studies that, like you need all things to fire to create the best version of you. And that's relationships. And yes, that's your health. And that's a financial plan. And it can get really overwhelming. But when you set those goals and priorities in the Habitual Growth app, it's keeping you accountable. Like if you like it or not, it's showing you what's important to you. And so I think that in combination with a framework like Live Hard is the ultimate. Like it's you don't need to do either or. Like you can do and. You can do Live Hard and still have big life goals that you want to hit, and Habitual Growth like makes that happen for me.
Love that. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Love your wisdom, and I'm so happy to be doing this with you, honey. You are an inspiration for me and so many others. So thank you for taking the time to do this today. I know we talked about this, but we're going to do a wrap up at the end of phase two. Hopefully, we can do it in Italy when we're enjoying some gelato and some pizza, and we're not as stuck to our diets as we are now. But again, thank you. This is so valuable. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you and the kids tonight.
Thanks for creating an app that changes lives for the better.
All right. Bye, honey.
Bye.